So, today's video is going to be a bit different than usual, and a bit darker than normal, so bear that in mind as you watch. Today, I will be reviewing the top 10 worst dictators from the past 100 years. However, this list will not be like any other you have seen on the internet. I have compiled the most factual information for this video, including some hidden dictators that are never mentioned in these videos. So let's get to the dictators. Hoxha was born in 1908 in Albania. He became a grammar teacher but decided to become a full-time communist in 1941. He ruled with an iron fist over Albania for 40 years, outlawing religion and executing thousands, but for some reason Wikipedia still likes to romanticize his rule. Albania was closed off from most of the world, breaking ties with the West, then the Soviets, and finally China. It was so closed off that they found out the Berlin Wall fell long after the other communist countries did. Hoxha had a heart attack in 1973 but refused to die until 1985, executing people from his wheelchair and later his bed until his death. Amin was born in 1925 in northern Uganda. After moving up through the army ranks in the British Army, he became commander of the Ugandan army not long after they gained independence in 1962. He decided to overthrow the government in 1971 when the president wanted to arrest him for embezzlement. As ruler, he claimed to have conquered the British Empire while losing a war of conquest to Tanzania. Oh yeah, he was a pretty fucked up guy. He killed like 500,000 people in his country in rampant ethnic and political persecution. After his army fell in 1979, he fled to Libya, then Saudi Arabia, then Zaire, and back to Saudi Arabia where he died in 2003. Saddam was born in April 1937 in Iraq. Though he officially took power of the country in 1979, he had been in control for about a decade, putting his Sunni Arab allies in government positions. This guy was nuts, to say the least. He invaded Iran, which went nowhere, and then invaded Kuwait, only for the West to back them up. He also committed vicious genocides against the Shia and Kurdish populations. At least 250,000 were killed from the genocide alone, but it was probably way more. He was eventually deposed in 2003 and executed in 2006. Pol Pot was born as a rich boy in French Cambodia in 1925. He joined the Communist Party of France in the 1940s, returning to Cambodia as a school teacher. He eventually moved to the jungle in the 1960s and started a rebellion, the Khmer Rouge, against the Cambodian government. When North Vietnamese forces came near to the country in the 1970s, he was aided in the conquest of the country. He was one of the most bloody dictators, killing 1/3 of his population in just 3 years. He was ousted by a rival communist government in 1979, and the Khmer Rouge returned to the jungle until Pot's death in 1998. Now, knowing that all of you have probably seen millions of these kinds of videos, I will quickly breeze through number 6 through 2 so we can get to number 1, who also happens to be the least known. Number 6, Benito Mussolini. Number 5, Kim Jong-il. Number 4, Joseph Stalin. Number 3, Adolf Hitler. Number 2, Mao Zedong. Bak was born in 2003 in the United States. The exact place and time is unknown. In 2016, he started uploading meme videos to his YouTube channel, which eventually shifted to geopolitical content. By 2025, he had 1 million subscribers and a quickly growing following. However, things would take a different turn as a group of overzealous fans in some third world country took one of his predictions too seriously, causing a major war. As a result, the United States government vowed to shut down Mad Mac to prevent any future wars like this from happening ever again. This action prompted the Mad Mac riots, a series of mass unrests across the United States and Canada by fans and other bandwagoners, starting in 2026. The government claimed to have defeated Mad Mac in the uprising in early 2027, though in reality the US brokered a secret deal with the Mac and the Mad Lads, allowing them to continue making content, but they would be exiled to the Gorno-Badakhshan region of Tajikistan, so any trouble that ensues from the videos would not be blamed on the US. The Mad Lads secretly built a large city in the mountains called Mactopia, and built a large dam to power the city. This also simultaneously destabilized Uzbekistan, as they lost 50% of their water supply from the Amu Darya River. The Mad Lads' next move was to incite a coup against the Tajik government, which could not repel this overthrow due to the industrial might of Mactopia. After control of the entire country was consolidated by early 2028, the invasion of Kyrgyzstan began, ending in its annexation by June. Another massive dam was built to block up the Naran and Sirdarya rivers, further destabilizing Uzbekistan. They declared war on Mactopia in October of 2028 after a year of no harvest, though their attempts to reclaim their water went to no avail as the Fergana Valley and Tashkent were quickly captured by Mactopia in the first month of the war. The Mad Lads made it to the remnants of the Aral Sea by December and began pushing south into Turkmenistan, conquering the country by February of 2029. Mactopia also invaded Kazakhstan in February, capturing Almaty and their western gas fields in the first month of the war. Russia decided not to intervene on Kazakhstan's side, allowing the country to fall by June of 2029. Mactopia released some of the pressure on the dams, as all of Central Asia was now under their control, and the western gas fields were an alternate power source for the capital. This was also in a play to gain loyalty from the downriver countries, which ultimately worked in their favor as the industrial methods of Mactopia increased farming output also. Global chaos ensued in the early 2030s as thousands of spontaneous assassinations in Europe and China were both blamed on Russia. However, the assassinations were carried out by Mactopian secret forces, disguised as Russian forces to destabilize the continent for future domination. The plan worked as Russia was now at war with both China and the European allies. China could not make it far past Manchuria, and the European powers were in a stalemate with Russia and Eastern Europe. Meanwhile, Mactopia invaded Russia from the south, making a push for the Arctic gas fields and to capture Russian nuclear weapon sites. The Russian army was split in two, massively destabilizing the country and leading to their ultimate surrender to Mactopia. Most of Siberia was annexed, while parts of European Russia would become part of a new puppet state, promised parts of Eastern Europe if they kept the war in Europe going. Europe, severely weakened by its war with Free Russia, fell quickly to Mactopian allied forces. Mongolia, a Mactopian ally, began allowing Mactopian supply lines through the country to finish off a badly weakened China. Though nukes were threatened by both sides, Mactopia's arsenal of nearly 8,000, captured from Russia and Europe, would easily defeat China's arsenal of 200. The Chinese Communist Party fled to an unknown Pacific island after the mainland was captured. China became a vast puppet state of Mactopia, with the highest leadership positions being given to their Mongol allies. Both Koreas, Taiwan, the Caucasus, and Afghanistan were gobbled up by Mactopian allies during the Great Eurasian War also. Britain, Ireland, Iceland, and Japan were the only countries that fought in the war that were spared from being conquered. Turkey's government was overthrown in a coup in 2036 by Mactopian allies, leading to a war of conquest of nearly all Middle Eastern countries. Iran, India, and Thailand faced similar coups, and Mactopia aided their wars of conquest, giving Mactopia nearly full control of Eurasia. The remaining free countries have allied with the United States against Mactopia and are trying to contain it. However, the signs are discouraging. Most of Africa and the Malay world are trapped in civil wars against Mactopian allies and American allies, leading to a new Cold War. Rebellions aided by both sides exist in both realms, though they mostly appear at the far reaches of the empires. Mac rules over his empire with an iron fist. 8 puppet states exist in the greater Mactopian realm: Europe, Russia, Turkey, Iran, India, Siam, China, and the central state, Makistan. Mactopia remains the capital of the realm, amassing over 20 million inhabitants, and being given the honorary title of capital of the world. The countries have hardly any autonomy from each other, and only exist to give an illusion of regional autonomy to the free world. This about concludes this abnormal video. For those of you who are concerned about this one, just remember that the last one is a joke. Or is it? And I will be back in a serious video next week. I'll see you then.